Hello and welcome to 360 Gamercast, episode 139 for Tuesday, the 11th of October 2022. I'm your host Mark Webb, gamertag Pearson ID, Steam ID, Webby360G, and joining me on this very fine evening is...
Xbox number one fanboy, Nick Fights.
And Sensei Switch.
How we doing, lads?
Good.
Good. Right, so this week is Patreon week, so we said last week that we're going to be doing something different on the Patreon weeks for the foreseeable future, which is running down games, consoles, our favourite memories and favourite games from those systems. So we're starting off with the Xbox family of systems. So this week's episode is all about the OG Xbox. So I can't call it the Xbox One, like you would say the PlayStation 1, because Microsoft fucked up all the naming, didn't they? So if I said we're talking about the Xbox One, people think, oh, you're only talking about the last gen Xbox, boring. But no, we're talking about the OG fat Xbox.
It's known as the Xbox, wasn't it?
Yes, indeed. A great system.
Yes.
Came
Very
out.
Surprising system as well.
What year did it come out? 2001?
2002, I think.
Was it 2000? Oh, November 2001. 15th of November 2001. Yes. I thought I was right. I'm always right. You need to learn this by now, Nick. I am.
Oh no, I'm looking
the master.
I'm looking at an article from January 2002, which is some other stuff I have to talk about. So that's why I saw 2002.
Ah, that's fair enough, mate. I'll let you off on that one.
Thank you very much.
So, I don't know how we're gonna do this. I mean, we're gonna go through our memories and stuff. I mean, I might as well start off. I'm not going to talk about all the games and stuff, but I'm just gonna. I didn't get the Xbox at launch. I have to admit.
Neither. I didn't either.
No. When did you pick yours up? Can you remember?
Months later.
Yeah.
Like quite a few months later, maybe 6 months later. I mean, I wasn't really that interested because obviously I'd had a Dreamcast at the time. And I think this was when I basically didn't play any games or anything for a good couple of years because I was generally always out. So I was never home to really play anything. So why bother?
Yeah, makes sense.
Kind of. But yeah, then someone contacted me and said, I can get you an Xbox off the back of a lorry for about 100 quid. Are you interested?
What?
Like, yeah,
nice.
mate. Yeah, why not?
Lucky bastard. Lucky
and
bastard.
It was the edition that came with Jet Set Radio Future, and was it like Sega GT 2000 or something weird?
Which that's what I was saying. That's the exact same one I got about the same time. I didn't pay it off the back of a lorry or nothing, but I was going to talk about this because I think I got it around July because that's my birthday, so that's when I got it, and that's when that was out. But I suppose I bet you hated this, the fact that the game in there didn't have a case. It was 2 games on one disc, and the book had like one side was Jet Set Radio, and then you turned the instructions books upside down. It was Sega GT.
Yeah, I did end up. I haven't got Sega GT, but I did end up buying a separate copy of Jet Set Radio Future.
Yep, and I've got the same and Sega GT. I had to buy them separately because
I didn't come across the Sega GT. It obviously wasn't that as popular around this area, or I just didn't hunt hard enough at the time. But
I've got it in my hands right now.
One of the things I did notice enjoyably when I was going through a lot of these, obviously looking at them earlier and pulling out certain game cases, this was when games felt meaty and great.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Big old instruction booklets, they had a heft and a weight to them, the games, like when you'd pick them up off the shelf. Because there was obviously instruction booklets and everything included. It felt less, I don't know, cheap.
Well, it did go from... When you actually look through all the different Xboxes, you can actually see how the cases get smaller and thinner and more see-through plastic all the way up to the newer Xbox. I mean, I haven't I don't think I've got a brand new Series X one with your favourite white weird artwork they have at the top. But I don't know if they're.
I've seen some that are like a hybrid of the two, but I don't know whether they were just shop display cases.
Yeah.
But I just thought, you could have just done that.
Yeah. But I think they're probably the same case from Xbox One to Series X, I think. But I think they've changed the top bit, though, haven't they? Like the artwork goes all the way over the top.
Yeah, it fills the entire sleeve, whereas with the other one, the Xbox was like embossed and then had like silver or white.
Yeah, but I still think
I actually quite liked those. They were really well done. But the odd thing with those that you first noticed off is with the Xbox One games, the disc was on the other side.
Yes.
On the inside instead of the inside of the sleeve rather than the centre.
Oh.
Hello? Yeah. Still here.
Yeah, no, it's all right. I was just finished the statement.
So, I mean, I got my Xbox OG. I can't remember exact, like, how long into the life cycle of Xbox I picked one up. I don't think it was that far in because I got it with the original Halo 1. I think that might have been the only game I had with it at when I picked it up. And then later on I picked up a few other games. But I do I have fond memories of the Xbox, but it was weird. Like, I'm just trying to get my thoughts together, sorry. So it was a big deal for me to pick up the Xbox because I was a massive PlayStation fanboy, probably more of a fanboy than Stunty is at the moment. It was all about, the PS1 and the PS2. PlayStation, amazing. And we'll have some podcasts on the PlayStation at a later date. So it was a big deal for me to pick up the Xbox. And it came with that original Duke controller. And it had the little black and the white buttons on it on the right-hand side, didn't it? That kind of acted like, the shoulder buttons we have now. Because if I remember rightly, the original Xbox controllers only had triggers. They didn't have any bumper buttons. So those little black and white buttons kind of were your kind of bumper buttons. But I remember just when I got it home and I was like, fucking hell, this thing is huge, such a bulky piece of kit. But the one reason I picked it up is just because of Halo. Without Halo, I don't know if you guys agree or not, or if you thought the same, but without Halo, I don't think there would be an Xbox, to be honest, because that is the game that convinced me to buy the console. Because I remember going into Game, I think it was, or Game Station, one of the two, or Electronics Boutique, and playing Halo in one of those booths on the Xbox, and I was just like, I have to have this system. This game is super fucking awesome. And it quickly became my favorite system, and my PlayStation started to gather dust. So, yeah. That's kind of like my story of acquiring it. But when it came out in 2001, I picked up in 2002, so I was 18 at the time. Yeah, when I picked it up. Sorry, Nick.
I was going to say, Switch. Did you actually get to play one before you got one off the back of a lorry, like to see what it was about, or were you just at that stage where Xbox, I'm having it, or?
It was basically the reason I wasn't initially interested is because I've always been into my Japanese games. That was like my bread and butter. I grew up in the properly the Sega and Nintendo stuff was where I really got into gaming. Obviously, I had early computers before, Spectrum, etc. But it was at that point where I was really into the sort of types of games I'm making, and then I was looking at the stuff that's coming out on PC, and obviously Xbox, Microsoft. It was all sort of going to be more of that kind of side of games, I thought. So it was going to be more PC stuff, and then part of me was like, well, this could be a chance for me to have access to some games that are originally only on the PC. They might come to this because it's a Microsoft system. And that did actually occur with a few games, but it was also the fact that there was quite a few Japanese developers on board with this at the start and through most of the life cycle of the system, which is quite short in today's standards.
Yeah, because because I'm just thinking, Darren.
3 or 4 years, and then it was on to the next. 3 or 4 years on to the next.
360 came out in 2005, right? I think that was the year it came out.
360 had like almost a 10-year life cycle.
Yeah, that's right. So if you think so 4 years between the Xbox OG and the 360, that is fast, isn't it? That's really like short lifespan, but you know. For me, I have so many great memories of the OG Xbox because obviously I got it at that age. You know, I was 18, so I still had my group of mates. You know, you have at that age which go around your houses and stuff like that, right? Not like when you're our age and you have no friends. You know what I mean? It's you know, so
your families.
Yeah, that's right. So
in the outside world.
Yeah. So, you know, I was at that age, I was out on the beer and going out with the lads and all that. But, you know, no one else of my group of friends had an Xbox. They were all PlayStation guys. So, you know, it was really, really good because, you know, people, like all my mates used to come around my house to play the Xbox. And the highlight for me was Halo. The first Halo playing through the campaign on co-op, you know, but that become a little bit of a fixture with me and a few of my friends just going through that. I think I must have completed the campaign about 4 or 5 times with different people, and enjoyed it immensely because, you know, co-op gaming now is great. I love co-op gaming online, but I think there's a different magic to it when, you know, you're sitting with someone. You know, they're physically next to you and you're just chatting as you're playing these games.
You can joke around a lot more as well.
Yeah. And at the time, it was brand new. Like, I don't remember anything else like it at the time, you know. Halo, in particular, was the one game that brought first-person shooters to console that worked really well because, you know, I also had a PC. I was a PC gamer as well. I'm quite fortunate in the fact that I've always had PCs and games consoles. So I've always had that option of chopping and changing between the platforms. But, you know, the Xbox for me, just with the even the Duke controller, I thought was very comfortable. The fact you had triggers, the dual thumbsticks, and the fact that Halo played so well with the controller and the split screen co-op worked so well as well. Like there was nothing else like it that you could just sit on the sofa and kick back and have a beer with your mates and play. You know, and that's what really sold me on the Xbox. And it actually had 4 controller ports on the front. You have to remember this was back in the day where controllers were all wired to the console. There was no wireless controllers back then as well, which people seem to forget. You know, so it was really great. So and I very quickly picked up a second controller, which was the Controller S, which was the smaller controller design, which is very similar to all the Xbox controller shapes henceforth.
And instantly that felt perfect as a controller in your hand. Like when I picked that up, I was like, "Oh, yeah, that's much better."
Yeah,
have a little bit. Whether you probably remember this, that they also had the breakaway controller on the cables. So if you accidentally yanked it, that did that, which was nice because if you pulled that Xbox off the shelf, you're putting a hole in the floor, weren't you?
Yeah.
Because that was that heavy, but
that's correct.
But I remember the first one because my mate at school, like his older brother, because I think he was a fair bit older with him, you know, still at home, so I obviously had plenty of money, and he bought one on launch.
Yeah,
sort of launch. So I went round there, and I think he had obviously Halo. you had Fusion Frenzy as well, which is like a party game and things like that.
Yeah.
But even though this is like in the same, console generation as, PS2 and GameCube, this just seemed like more next gen than them, because this was a lot more powerful than PS2, like by a long way.
Yeah.
Which I always thought it was funny, over the last few years, all the little Digital Foundry videos of comparing the PS4 games to the Xbox One, and this dropped 1 frame more than this one, and whereas really when you both look at it, you're like, it's the same game. It doesn't really look that much difference. But when you actually looked at the difference between the Xbox and the PS2 ports of the same game, you could just see that just by looking at, easily, instantly, you could see that was, so much better. And I remember playing that with him.
It was a nice Christmas machine, because I remember saying to my friend, actually, as well, this might have reminded me. The other reason I was interested in obviously picking this system up was the fact that my mate said this is one of the first times a system in the UK can run at 60 hertz full screen in this country. Because up until then we had like big fat borders and 50 hertz and stuff like that going on. Our games were a lot slower than the American and Japanese versions.
Yeah.
Yeah. Plus for me...
Yeah, so sorry, I just want to say, like, the one thing that people forget about the Xbox is it was ahead of its time compared to the PlayStation 2 and the GameCube, and the fact that, it had a built-in hard drive. The other systems didn't have hard drives; they relied on memory cards. Yeah,
and you could store music to it. You could actually burn your own music.
Oh, I did that all the time. Yeah,
I did it all the time as well. For certain games, I had rock soundtracks for some of them, and like reggae soundtracks for others.
Yeah, I used to love doing this because you could just like play games and just run new music, which was fantastic. But also the fact that it had a hard drive was amazing, and that's obviously a standard in all consoles now. It also was the first console to have a built-in Ethernet port into the back of the system, because Microsoft looked ahead at where broadband was going. You have to remember that, dial-up was still kind of the main way that people connected to the internet when this came out. So, they were looking ahead a little bit, because broadband was only in its infancy at the time. So, and it played well in their hand that they had the Ethernet port built in, because once broadband started to take off, you just plug it straight in, ding dong, and you're online. And I remember, to play online, because I was still living with my dad at the time. We had to pay to upgrade our broadband. We were with NTL, which is now Virgin, and we had to upgrade it to 700 meg to get the games to work. That was I think the minimum requirement was around that for Xbox Live, and the router was in one room, and we actually got like a really long Ethernet cable, and he drilled holes in the ceiling and ran the Ethernet cable through the loft and dropped it down into my room so I could play online. Yeah, that's so awesome, man. You have to think like because Wi-Fi is just like such the norm now. Yeah, and people forget the lengths we had to go through to play online back in the day.
But even still now, Ethernet is a superior connection. It's far more stable.
Yeah, I have everything wired. I still have everything wired up now if I can. So, yeah. Sorry, Nick, I completely interrupted you.
That's fine. I was just, talking. But yeah, like you said, so I was obviously playing it around my mates. I was like, oh, I want one of these. But like I said, I'd already had a PS2 and a GameCube. So I thought, well, I'll, wait and save up a bit of money, because obviously it was Christmas time and things like that. But another thing that happened, and I know it was January 2002 when Xbox did it, but pretty much around the same time as Xbox released for £300, PS2 dropped the price from the PS2 to 200.
Yeah.
You're talking days, before and up. But by then, obviously, Xbox had already sold the first lot of batch batches of consoles, to the distributors, so they couldn't reduce the price because they'd already sold them to Game and whatever. So they had their profit margins in that £300.
Yeah.
So that, so you talk about, consoles getting dirty and saying how PlayStation's for the gamers. They're dirty just like all the rest of them are, really, aren't they? But
yeah, it's just business, isn't it? Yeah.
Well, yeah, but that's what you do. I mean, obviously they were the new kids on the block. So I remember, but Xbox did, I think it was 5 weeks after launch in January, they actually reduced it down to 200 quid.
Wow.
Because basically they had to, and they were already losing money at 300 quid because of the hard drive and, like I said, all the bits that they put in.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure they almost, like I said, they lost money on every Xbox console they sold. Even at the start of the 360, I think they didn't actually start making money off Xbox consoles hardware for something like 7-8 years. I think it was about 3-4 years into the 360. I think it was the first revision when they actually started making any type of profit.
Yeah.
But that was good because, but I mean, Nintendo did a similar thing with the 3DS a few years later, but they did like a ambassador thingy program whereas if you bought your Xbox within the first 5 weeks, they actually gave you, and you could apply online, send pictures of your receipts, whatever. They actually gave you 2 free games of your choice and a controller, which was 115 quid. So I remember my mate did this. So then he got I'm trying to think the other game, but I know we got Dead or Alive 3 and another game. Now I remember it was Shrek 2. So
nice.
one of those games was good, and one of those games was not so good. But also, for me, like over the next few months, because obviously when we had like magazines and stuff, this was when Xbox was signing, and Switch probably was one of his factors of buying it as well. They signed a lot of deals with Sega to bring Sega games over.
Yeah.
Like Jet Set Radio Future, Shenmue, Crazy Taxi 3. And so Xbox, and probably is still sort of today, is kind of the spiritual successor to the Dreamcast.
Yeah, I'd say so.
We've got that whole thing of the Controller S and the 360 controllers. Well, they were helped to be developed by Sega.
Yeah, so it was kind of, even if, I know a lot of the Japanese people don't really like Xbox and probably never will, but for the rest of the world...
There was an install for the first couple of consoles in Japan.
The original
really. Xbox. And I think the 360, there was a fair bit when I visited Japan. There was rather large sections for the Xbox stuff. And games there that I never saw come over our way.
Oh, yeah, they tried, but I'm just thinking more the rest of the world, it was a spiritual successor to Sega and Dreamcast. It took the place in the market, but not, obviously, Xbox never sold the same as what, say, Sega did in Japan. So, for the rest of the world, maybe, but, but for me and a lot of other people, it just filled a nice place because obviously Dreamcast died.
Well, it was mainly due to the fact that they wanted to attract the Japanese and Asian markets was the reason for the small controller, because they complained that it was too big for them.
Yeah. I mean, I think Xbox on more than one occasion just tried to buy out Sega. I think they tried to buy out Nintendo as well, just buy them outright.
I did hear they passed Nintendo quite a while back.
They done a thing where, like, someone at Nintendo, one of the big guys, was like, "Where the meeting?" and they all just laughed at him. I'm like, all right, why take the meeting? You know what they're going to say, but if you're going to get a hold in the market, you either have to start at the bottom and just fight for everything, or you just buy your way out of trouble. And Microsoft could probably do that most of the time.
They're still doing it now.
Really, well, yes, yeah.
If you wish to listen to the rest of this week's awesome episode, you need to subscribe to the Patreon. So head on over to patreon.com/360gamercast to sign up for as little as £5 a month. We will be doing a lot of these extra special episodes for the Patreons. As you are aware, we've started off with the Xbox. In a couple of weeks, it will be the Xbox 360 and so forth. and we will be covering all the main console manufacturers. So we're doing Xbox at the moment, we'll be doing Sony PlayStation, and then Nintendo, and then Sega as well, and then we'll probably be going on to some other manufacturers as well, running down our favourite memories, favourite games. It's made for, well, this week's episode, it made for an awesome episode, over 2 hours long, discussing all our favourite memories of the OG Xbox and our favourite games and the birth of the online Xbox Live, which everyone else has copied, but Microsoft were the first player to really do it right. So anyway, I'm rambling on. Sign up to the Patreon, £5 a month, patreon.com/360gamercast. You do not want to miss out on this awesome episode.